ourselves the Elite.
Better than you, and you know it.
If not us, who? And if not now, when?
We don't care about race or gender or sex or religion. If you're an elite athlete, we want you.
Change the world. We are going to change the whole universe!
This is what you call a paradigm shift.
He saw what wrestling was and realized what it could be.
All Elite Wrestling!
For the 22nd time, it's Monday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for the next chapter of the only professional wrestling podcast that is changing the world every week. This is Seeing the Elite, an AEW podcast. I am your host, Bryce Reed. I am joined by my friend, my co-host, my tag team partner, Mr. Jonathan Davis.
How's it going, buddy?
We are just 2 weeks away from Chicago. Only 2 weeks remain between us and All Out, the final stop in the road before AEW debuts on TNT on October 2nd. Jonathan, answer for me this. What's better than a sellout?
3 sellouts? Actually...
You double sellout.
Four?
Four?
4 sellouts now?
How are we doing? Oh, I guess 4 sellouts in a row, all counting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4 in a row.
If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Jonathan and I are two friends, fans, lovers of professional wrestling who are here each and every single Monday morning with all the latest news from All Elite Wrestling. This is not a sports entertainment show. It's an entertaining sports show supported by fans just like you from all over the world on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, podcast services everywhere. Subscribe, review, give us 5 stars, just like Dave Meltzer. It makes us feel so sweet. Jonathan, how sweet?
Too sweet, buddy. Too
You're
sweet.
motherfucking right. Facebook.com/Seeing the Elite. Twitter @Seeing the Elite. No G @Seeing the Elite. And if you really want to be part of the crew, if you really want to be a homie, tinyurl.com/Seeing the Elite. Join our Discord server. Get in with AEW fans from all over the world. Stay hype on the news and into all of the wild conversations that we have week after week after week over there, man. That's the place to be. As always, if you're looking for a specific news story to be talked about, the time codes will be in the description of the episode. Thank you to JD for that. But beyond that, I mean, what to talk about before we even get this episode started? We are going to talk about the 2 massive sellouts for TV number 2 and TV number 3 in Boston and Philly that happened really predictably at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. Smaller arenas went on sale on a Friday, went out immediately.
And it's like we go, oh, you know, all these people, when you look at what the ticket demand rate was for Chicago, right? Where we were talking about it being 135,000 or whatever ticket demand rating, right? That's for people who were willing to fly to Chicago to go to those shows, right? So that's a very small percentage of the fan base. There are so many people. Jesus, you see it with bands all the time where bands are like, hey, we're in Buffalo, and the first post on it is like, oh, you're going to Buffalo, come to Poughkeepsie. It's like, just go to fucking Buffalo.
Yeah. The more interesting thing to me is, like, yes, we're seeing a lot of people, for a lot of numbers on Chicago, people who are flying in for that.
Sure.
But when you look at it, it's Chicago the first time, Vegas, Chicago the second time, and now these first three shows are all sellouts in under 6 hours.
Yeah.
There are a considerable number for some of these shows where people are flying in, but there's also just people who are like, man, fuck yeah, I am going to see this show, and I will get online and try to get tickets.
Sure.
I know we're supposed to be hearing what shows 4 and 5 where they will be on Monday, and man, I'm still banking one of these first 5 is in Atlanta because I'm so down to see one of these shows.
Yeah, the point I guess I'm trying to make is that people really don't understand that there are so many people who are going to be a fan of this product where if it's not in the city they live in, they're not going to go. Not because they don't care about the product or whatever, just because they don't leave their city for anything. Why should they? They live in a city. That's the whole fucking point, is that you live in a city, right?
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it's one ththing to travel to a more special event, but when it starts being TV tapings, yeah, you're not going to travel for that. Fuck that.
Right. That was my thoughts exactly when I had to hold everything in my spirit in to not buy tickets to Boston. And I'm sure when the show rolls around and I'm watching on TV at home, I'm gonna be like, motherfucker.
I should have went to that, yeah.
Let's start as we usually do with a quote. Quote, All Elite Wrestling, AEW, is going to be a sleeper hit. It's very counterintuitive to launch a new league at the height of the WWE. Editor's note, that's very funny. But I have a lot of reasons why it makes sense where the opportunity is. We're not taking down the WWE, but I think this is going to be surprising. A quote from Kevin Riley, Warner Media Direct-to-Consumer Chief Content Officer and TBS TNT True TV President.
AKA, he's the guy in Atlanta.
Right, AKA the fucking boss.
No, not at all the boss.
Of TNT.
Yes, but like those 3 networks, I know where that building is. Like,
yeah.
That's just the one in Atlanta.
Right. And a very important, him giving the stamp of approval. This was, of course, part of an article that, Jesus, I think Variety did.
Probably,
where they asked each, they were at the Television Critics Association, and they were asking each president of each network, like, what do you think is going to be your sleeper? They asked him each a series of questions, and one of them was, what do you think the sleeper hit's going to be? Kevin Riley, of course, answering AEW, which, part of this is, again, it's marketing, it's interview, right? And they probably say this to the thing that they think is probably their most outside hit of being like an unusual interest or whatever. The idea of them saying that this is the height of WWE is kind of funny. I mean, I guess you could argue with the Fox deal, like business-wise, this is a height. With the money they're making, this is a height, but really I only think that's because their only other boom period was like 20 years ago when the dollar was
it's
worth
because of the
whatever.
deals that have been signed in the past few years, that
Right.
as well as the the WWE network. That is why this is the height of their business, because there's nowhere else to go but up. And for the things that they've done, I mean, they're getting to the peak now. They can't do much more. Right. So it'll be very interesting to see. You and I both agree that content-wise, this is one of the worst periods of WWE.
Yeah.
But business-wise, yeah, they're doing amazing. That's not to say that that's going to change quickly, but it's going to be interesting to see how it does change.
Well, it's nice to see that AEW is going to put at least a little bit of muscle behind this thing, or TNT rather.
Yeah, as they should, especially with some of the dumb shit that's starting to happen.
Right. We are going to talk more about a little bit more about WWE later, but mostly we're going to stay off it for this episode, which is awesome. Being the Elite number 165, farewell to independent wrestling. Kind of a surreal episode. Kind of a thing that I don't think anyone ever would have expected. And if they did, it would have been them going to WWE. It's kind of one of those moments where you look back and you're like, okay, something's really happening here.
Yeah.
The show opens with the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes in a production conversation. Mid-sentence, Cody shifts his weight from his left foot to his right foot, at which time his elbow lightly taps Rick Knox. Knox goes down and stays down. Cody kind of calls out how tired this joke is. He's like, ref bump, good rib.
Which, when you think about it, it really makes sense that they're tired of it, considering they filmed all of this on the same weekend. So by this point, okay, enough of this shit. We've done this all goddamn day.
Yeah. Cody gets frustrated, steals Knox's wallet, and then exits.
That was the best part. It's
This is
like,
very
okay,
funny.
he's just there. I'm going to take his fucking wallet. Like, okay, fuck.
On camera.
Yeah.
Then we hit the title card. Out of the title card, the throwback continues this week as we are in the airport where the Bucks are filming each other, explaining that the new cameras and the crew and all that, they're not tagging along this weekend. And we're going to go back to sort of old style BTE. And it kind of stays that way throughout. Really the only story thing that wasn't like a BTE travelogue type thing was the part at the beginning with Knox.
Yeah, everything else is pretty much just travelogue because they're so fucking busy.
Yeah, or and everybody's all over the place, and it's difficult to keep track of. And I really wonder how much longer they're gonna continue to do this one. I don't think Road 2 is in any danger, but I think BTE is.
Yeah,
questioning what they're going to do. But I could be wrong, and they could continue to do BTE and kind of kill the Road 2 thing, surprisingly.
Well, we've been talking about that for a while. I don't think they're going to kill Road 2. They're going to have to reformat it a little bit because it's not really going to serve a purpose week to week to week to week unless they just bring it back before the next big tentpole, which should be this winter.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, there's one more this year. We know that.
Yeah, so I mean, with just thinking that BTE, it honestly might be easier for them to film when they're doing week to week television tapings.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Brief red-eye flight interlude before the Bucks make it to the hotel and go straight to the Hilton member lounge.
They made it seem like that's such a fancy thing.
It's not. It's just like you have a Hilton credit card or whatever.
No,
you
don't even have to have the credit card. It's just like if you I've done it when I've stayed at the Hilton in Atlanta.
Yeah.
If you pay an extra $2 a night to stay on an upper floor, then you have access to the lounge.
Next, we head to Hangman's hotel room where a film crew is waiting to film something top secret with the Hangman. The Bucks make a joke about ordering the room service thing from last week and then turning the show to show the rest of the crew, right? Kind of making a joke about how last week they made it seem like there were 3 of them in the room and they ordered like 50 plates of food, right? Because they weren't showing the other crew that was there, and now they made kind of a joke about that, which of course set off Shane's conspiracy theory about us having some sort of connection to what's going on over there. I wish. That'd be funny.
Mm-hmm.
A short drive through the rain to the HOG venue. The dedication on display from the fans is inspirational here as they sit in the fucking pouring rain in line for probably an hour.
If not longer.
I'm sure the smell of everybody when they got inside was just wonderful. Just a bunch of wet dogs. Now we're on a porch on a beautiful summer afternoon. An expensive-looking blender, a glass, and a collection of halved oranges sits on a table. The unmistakable wardrobe and body language of Orange Cassidy walk into the background. Cassidy lifts one of the oranges, squeezes it into the blender, which is already 1/3 filled with the purest of orange juices. Cassidy then removes his AEW contract from the inside of his jacket and drops it into the blender. A quick pulse later, Cassidy pours OJ, now with more pulp, into the glass.
A lot more pulp.
And drops his sunglasses onto the rim and gives his signature lethargic thumbs up to the camera. The words cover the screen. AEW now serving freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. And then we see the title card. Orange Cassidy is All Elite. Now everyone can officially shut the fuck up, by the way. All the people on the Facebook, every Facebook status they send out, sign Orange Cassidy, first comment. I have gone on record before, and I stand by the fact that I don't think that the joke has week-to-week legs.
But it does have month-to-month legs.
Sure, and I will say it doesn't fucking matter what I think, because a lot of people really like him. So, yes, sign him.
Yeah,
as Cody has said before, wrestling buffet, right? Have something that everybody likes. And whether I really understand I guess I understand the joke. I just don't think it's as funny as everybody else does. That doesn't fucking matter. Sign his ass, because people fucking love this guy. So...
Yeah, I'm in for this. I think it's awesome. I agree. I don't think week to week is going to go over well. But if they keep it strategic, then it's fine. I mean...
Yeah, he's got this sort of one-punch man thing. I think it would work better. I guess because I watched a bunch of his matches this week to be like... To try to kind of study up on him, because I knew I was going to have to talk about him after this. And the idea is that he does these sort of like super weak chops, but then the audience is supposed to pretend they're really impactful.
Yeah.
But the people that he's wrestling against don't pretend that they're really impactful, like ever. I think if the people he was wrestling against also pretended they were really powerful, the joke would work in a more complete fashion.
Yeah, I think that, and that's kind of in my opinion, the reason why his thing is confusing to people and not going over well is because when you're doing indie stuff like this, it's difficult to have the random performer you're working with that day understand what's going on and the gimmick.
Right.
And if by having people that he's working with consistently and people in the same locker room who understand what's going on, then you can do that type of a thing.
Yeah.
And then you can build on this weird-ass mystique that he has, that he looks like he's just lazy and super high, and he just kind of tapped that guy but whipped his ass.
Right, because he's going at 1% power, but if he went even more than that, then he would
just kill people,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Yeah, that's sort of the idea behind the gimmick. It just doesn't work when he's doing the light slaps and the guy across the room from him is like, what is this? You know what I mean? Like, no, you gotta sell it. And then the idea of the joke kind of becomes he's not putting effort in because he knows that the opponent has to sell it anyway, right?
Right.
So
and
it's
that's
just kind of...
when you think about it and you think of some of the guys that he's worked with, if you told them that, like, oh, this is like a One Punch Man gimmick, they're just like, what the fuck's One Punch Man?
Sure.
So it's like, oh, okay. You're... Okay.
Yeah. BT mailbag. Let's just go to BT email. Orange Cassidy super stoked that they've signed the guy, if for no other reason than people really like him, and it'll be funny characters and fun stuff that can draw people in just as much as anything. And as long as it's used correctly, then it's great. Best friends and stuff like that are already on the roster. Chuck Taylor, of course, really close friends with Orange Cassidy. So I think it's a good pull, a smart pull for them. Surprised it didn't happen sooner, honestly, but this is just as good as time as any to use it. So
yeah, I feel like that a lot of these things have been signed for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They're just drip feeding it out, kind of a thing.
Well, Cody did tweet this week that they've only revealed 40% of the roster.
Yeah, and it's a kind of a little bit of a weird thing, is like, especially with going into the battle royale, is like we're hearing names,
mm-hmm.
but we don't know their official status. So it's a little bit confusing.
Yeah,
but I think it's for the best for how it works, because they can keep things on the down low. And if somebody is like, wow, that person was really awesome, can we see more of them? They're like, sure can. Here you go.
Word on the street is that Teal Piper is not yet a long-term signing.
That makes sense.
That she's a
I don't
one-off
think
signing.
I don't think anyone besides the existing AEW talent are full signings to AEW currently.
Sure.
Or if they are, it's not going to be said.
A fan asks if AEW will have a Halloween pay-per-view where the wrestlers will wear costumes. Kenny says that he hopes that AEW will have some sort of event like this, whether it be TV or pay-per-view. Halloween this year falls on Thursday, October 31, which means that an episode of TV will air on Mischief Night, Wednesday, October 30th. The location of which is set to be revealed on the day you are hearing this podcast, if you're hearing it on day one, on Monday.
Yeah, if you're listening first thing today morning, wait like 3 hours and then you'll know. Just stop right here, then go listen to it.
Yeah.
And then come back.
They said they're going to drop the next two. So, we'll see about that. Next, Scorpio Sky answers a question while making me question my sexuality. I don't often think of myself as a homosexual, but I want to live in a tiny house with Scorpio Sky. I don't know.
There's nothing wrong with liking both,
yeah,
buddy.
no, I know that. I know that. But never...
And this is one of those times when it's like, yeah, okay.
Never have I seen a man who has it all. He can sing. He's ripped, you know.
Super ripped.
He seems like hanging around him is just a great time, you know.
Yeah.
My MCM this week, Man Crush Monday. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it is Monday. After all, a fan asks him what his favorite song is, and Sky answers that his favorite song today is That Thing You Do from the movie That Thing You Do. Scorpio then sings and improvises a dance routine to a significant portion of this song right there in the kitchen. And again, just he seems like such a fun guy to be around, you know?
He really does, man. It's just, he's like just this great dude to hang out with that you kind of expect him to be a full-on meathead.
Yeah.
And then you see him do shit like this, like, oh man, let's hang out, buddy. You look fun.
Next, Michael Nakazawa is in a bar answering a question from a fan who asks, if you weren't wrestling, what do you think you'd be doing instead? Nakazawa says that the reason that he started wrestling was because the girl that he liked enjoyed watching wrestling. So, Nakazawa calls his wife and asks her what she likes besides wrestling. She says that besides wrestling, she likes to play video games. So, if Nakazawa had not become a wrestler, he imagines that he would have become an esports athlete. I think this answer is brutally honest, and I love how upfront he is about his motivations.
He literally gives zero fucks about anything. And it was so funny. He's like, oh yeah, I started doing wrestling because I found this girl that really liked wrestling, so I just did it. And I'm like, okay.
He's honest about it, man. Chicks, power, money, and chicks, right? Like he's not like, oh, I can't imagine myself doing anything else because I love wrestling so much. He's like, I started wrestling because I wanted to date this chick who liked wrestling, so
I did it.
And I love how honest that is about his motivations. I thought it was funny. We now go to HOG for a montage of the Bucks as they talk about the dynasty they've built in the independent circuit. As they do what may very well be their last indie pre-show meet and greet table thing. Hopefully for them is the last time that they do it. Many of these people have become first-name friends with the Bucks since the Bucks have seen them so regularly throughout the last 15 years of touring. Truly is the end of an era for the Young Bucks, leaving the Indies. Kind of surreal. And this is probably the moment that strikes the most of that in the episode. It's just like, wow, like this has been what they do for a long time, and now it's going to be so much different. Pretty wild.
It's very wild because it's just different for them. I don't know. It's kind of like So what are you guys gonna do now? Obviously they have something in the works and things are going to be happening, but it's like, so what are you guys gonna do now?
Now there's a montage of match footage set to Matt's speech from the show. I didn't transcribe it because it's kind of like a short recap of the Young Bucks story on the Indies, and you either know it or it's better to hear it from the Bucks themselves. We'll also probably go over it prior to TV at some point. They then hype the tag match for Boston before signing off, and that's the end of the episode. I thought it was a good episode. BTE Mailbag, I think, particularly was kind of cool this week. And other than that, just kind of interesting to have shots from this moment in time for sort of a huge transition for these performers.
Yeah, I would agree. It was kind of like a longer episode than it needed to be for what it was.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was still perfectly. It's like, okay, I get what the length here was for, because it was for them. It was cathartic for them. To like, this is our goodbye. We want to spend a lot of time on this. I was like, okay, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. You should say goodbye.
With that being the last one, I think it was fitting that they didn't have the camera crew and that there weren't a lot of story things. Like it was still in that sort of throwback style, with it being their last.
Absolutely,
right?
I could not agree more. That it needed to be their style for this small instance. Doing the camera crew and everything would have been out of place.
Mm-hmm. Shawn Spears surprises Cody Rhodes and MJF at indie event by Joshua Gagnon for WrestlingInc.com. C4 Wrestling Fighting Back 9, a charity event that raised over $50,000 for the Canadian Cancer Society, took place in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada last night. At the show, Cody and MJF teamed up to take on Tabernacle de Team. Matthew St. Jacques and Thomas Dubois. Dubois. Jesus fucking Christ.
Frenchies.
Even being where I'm from, that was difficult for me. After the match, MJF went head to head to the back and got punched by Shawn Spears. Spears slowly made his way to the ring where Cody was, and the two brawled a bit. Then Spears grabbed a chair, and as he looked to take out Cody again, MJF got back in the ring and took the chair away. Cody attempted a crossroads on Spears, and he fought out of it and got out of the ring. Being Cody's friend, MJF has made it clear he's not happy with Spears' nasty chair shot to Cody's head at AEW Fyter Fest in June. Spears and Cody will meet at AEW All Out on August 31st in Chicago at the Sears Center. Yeah, a bit of business done here. Surprising to see Cody still doing shows. I thought he was out by now, but I guess he's still going.
Yeah, that was, I guess, I think I'm thinking back, he had mentioned that he was done before Double or Nothing. He's never said that he's actually done with the indies, so that makes a lot of sense. And I, apologize if I misled anyone last week. Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of sense for what if he wants to keep doing a couple, he really doesn't do many anyways. If they're servicing the gimmick, absolutely do it.
Yeah, but there were no words exchanged here. It was just sort of kind of a way to push the storyline forward, although they didn't really add anything that wasn't already there. It does, again, make me really feel like MJF is going to be at ringside for this. But then again, they push it back the other way with the Road 2 this week. So
yeah,
it's hard. I really don't know what's going to end up here.
That's the point, man.
Yeah. I think that's their intent here. Britt Baker cleared for action following concussion at Fight for the Fallen. This comes to us from Ryan Satin at ProWrestlingSheet.com. AEW wrestler Britt Baker suffered a concussion at Fight for the Fallen, but now the wrestler/dentist says she's been cleared for action. Baker tweeted a photo of herself and AEW head physician Dr. Michael Sampson on Friday to report the good news. Quote, cleared and ready to win the Casino Battle Royale at All Out, end quote. In case you missed it, Baker suffered a concussion during a pre-show match in which she teamed with Riho against B. Priestley and Soko Nakajima. Britt confirmed her injury the following day and gave her love to referee Aubrey Edwards for taking care of her. Britt will next appear for AEW in the Casino Battle Royale at All Out. The winner receives a shot at the AEW Women's World Championship and so far includes former Lucha Underground wrestler Ivelisse, Roddy Piper's daughter Teal Piper, and ex-WWE star Jazz. AEW roster members Nyla Rose, Britt Baker, Yuka Sakazaki, Ali, and Brandy Rhodes were also teased on the road to All Out. All Out takes place at the Sears Center Arena in Chicago, August 31st. Good. Glad to see that she's back. Weird that they announced it this way, but maybe they just they couldn't get footage together for her to do it.
No, because she, unlike the rest of the people in AEW, she has a big person job.
Sure.
She was posting stuff on Instagram this week. She actually is a licensed dentist, has been to medical school and everything. She posted a picture of her degree, so I imagine she is very hard to schedule time for right now, and probably will be for the next few months. But
the way that they filmed the show, all she's going to do is take a video of herself on her phone. You know what I mean? Like, she's done that from the dentist office before.
Yeah.
So,
it was a little bit of an odd one, but it's fine. The little bit of the more troubling one is that Kylie Rae has just completely disappeared from all social media.
Yeah, so we've we haven't talked about this story on the show, even though it's kind of like big news. It's kind of elephant in the room news, but I haven't talked about it on the show because I kind of feel like it's like none of our fucking business. You know what I mean?
Right. I agree, but it's just.
But it is weird. For those that don't know, I mean, Kylie Rae had her match at Double or Nothing, went over well in that match. And since then, her Twitter's been completely deleted. She has stopped taking bookings entirely. Nobody publicly has heard from her since then, and there's been no announcement as to how she's doing or what's going on, which is troubling for fans. But apparently, for whatever reason, she feels as though she needs to be away from what's going on right now.
Yep. So, it's a little troubling, but we wish her the best and we hope everything's okay.
Yeah, Jesus. Go ahead.
Did you see there was another Simi announcement? I'm not even sure if it's an announcement. It'll probably be something tomorrow, but I think Taylor Hendricks is coming to the Battle Royale.
Oh, that would be nice. Taylor Hendricks is great.
Yeah, she posted a picture on Twitter, just the AEW logo yesterday, and it's like, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Taylor'd be cool in that match.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be down for that. I guess the other big announcement regarding the women, All Out match announcement, two women who I would imagine won't be in the Battle Royal. Riho and
never know, man.
Yeah, maybe they are as well. Riho and Hikaru Shida, Saturday, August 31st, at the Sears Center Arena for All Out, are having a singles match. This will be kind of the first singles Joshi match. It remains to be seen if this will be the match for us in AEW that makes me go, okay, that's what Kenny's talking about. Kenny has continued to push this as, it's this crazy, more brutal, balletic kind of form of wrestling or whatever, and everything we've seen so far, at least to my eyes, has been like, it's like a fucking wrestling match with two tiny Japanese women. You know what I mean? It's fine, but it's the same thing with OWE when they were all like, oh, it's like Cirque du Soleil, but wrestling. It's like, no, it's kind of just like a fucking wrestling match, guys. And maybe the things they're talking about are little idiosyncrasies that the non-wrestler eye wouldn't notice. You know what I mean? And they're so much more sensitive to things like that.
It could be that, but it's also just, it's very... I don't know. I feel like I should be more interested in the Joshi wrestling, and I guess there's something like that, but it's also like they haven't really shown that to me yet, so maybe it could be. Maybe they just need a singles match where it's just two Joshi performers, and there's none of that little bit of feeling out period where they're trying to figure out what the fuck they can do.
Yeah,
because like you and I have talked about it before. Like once they figure it out and they hit that rhythm, it's great.
Yeah, so far I would say the matches have been between good and not so good. Depending on the one. Specifically, I think the one that they did that had Joshi performers and then also Britt Baker was in there was like, well, okay, what are we doing here, guys?
Yeah, that one was a little weird.
Kind of rough and weird, but the one where it was 6 experienced Joshi performers was better, but still it was a fucking 6-man tag. Like it's difficult for it to be really, really good. It just is. So I'm excited to see what they can do when it's just 2 of them, because I think it's a lot easier to draw people in on a match like that. A lot easier to tell a story too, because you have less sort of combustible Edisons, right, going on everywhere. Let's talk. I know they're not affiliated, but we did this last time, and it's kind of interesting to examine. The Starrcast event schedule went up this week, and oh man, a lot of really weird stuff going on here, man. And I want to talk about this because people are going to be going who are in Chicago for All Out. We're kind of leading up to All Out, talking about what the weekend's going to be like for everybody, and kind of want to talk about all the things that are happening around All Out, which is going to be huge.
I'll say this. If you're not going to be in Chicago and you're thinking about getting it on Fight, it's a good deal on Fight.
Well, especially now, because if you pre-order it before some certain point, you get the last 2 Starrcast events as well.
You get that, and that's why it's a good deal.
Right.
For $40, you get all 3 Starrcast events with the VODs for all 3, including the live streams for this one. Mm-hmm. You get, I believe, an $8 credit to a Fight further purchase.
Wow.
So, I mean, they're really making it worth it for Fight.
Yeah, that's a great deal.
Of it. If you're going to Chicago and All Out, if these are ticketed events on top of everything, fuck it, don't go to any of them.
Yeah, that's tough.
If they're not, I can accept that.
Well, so they have, the way this is set up is weird, because they have a Pro Wrestling Tees main stage, and that's where all of the broadcasted events are going to be, and then they have like a B stage somewhere, and maybe the B stage events aren't pay to view.
Who the fuck knows, man? You and I, we talked about it before the show started. I've been trying to get a simple question answered by Conrad and Starrcast events, and they can't even answer that. So I don't expect them to be able to answer something that's actually complicated with per panel productions.
Well, there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on here. Let's go through it. Thursday, 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m., BTE Mailbag Live will open the show.
This will be hilarious.
This will be cool. This will be streamed on Fight, so if you're interested in that, pick it up.
Which it's interesting because like they're saying BTE Mailbag Live. This is seriously just, hey guys, we're going to do Q&A for an hour and a half.
Sure, either that or they're reading questions that they've gotten from Twitter, but I think it's just going to be a Q&A. I think this is going to be a Q&A from them. Yeah. 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., AEW's Double or Nothing watch along. We have no idea who will be in the room for this, if there will be anyone over the mics, or if they're just going to fucking play the show and walk off, which wouldn't
I'm
surprise
fully
me.
expecting this to just be they're putting the pay-per-view on one of the projectors, and that's it.
Yeah, as people walk along the show floor. That won't be televised, of course. 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. on the main stage, the official all-out weigh-in and press conference. If it's as much of a jerk-off as the last one was, it's not worth seeing, unfortunately. It might actually go up for free on Fight, though, so stay tuned for that.
Probably will. The thing that's interesting to me that is very, in my opinion, stupid, is they put this Double or Nothing watch-along at the same time as some things that are I would consider very important.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's literally at the same time as the press conference and shit.
Which is, I would consider that way more important.
Yeah.
Now, if what they should have done is just started the watch-along at 8.
Yeah.
Because half of the crowd that you would expect to go to this watch-along is going to go to that press conference.
8:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. Is an event called From Undesirable to Undeniable. This will be streamed on Fight, and it's hosted by Tony Schiavone, but
no context at all.
That's all we know.
That's the other problem with this is like when you announce your panels,
Yeah.
you have to give a description of what they are.
Yeah, really weird that there's no descriptions. Possibly because nobody fucking knows what it's going to be.
And also likely that the people involved don't even know that they're involved with this.
Right. But, it's not like Kevin Owens from Undesirable to Undeniable or something like that, right? Like, it's just from Undesirable to Undeniable. It could be Tony Schiavone just talking about anything he likes, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue here, and that's just something that I know from going to a lot of conventions is that you can have weird-ass titles of things. Mm-hmm. You have to give a description so that people know what they're walking into. Like a panel I love to go to at Dragon Con every year is Weird Science and Video Games.
Right.
So, in your opinion, would you expect that to be science that is presented by the video games that's weird, or how science in real life is proven wrong by video games?
I wouldn't care to speculate.
It's typically, here's this wonky shit science that a video game presents. Let me tell you how that's bullshit.
Right.
And it's a lot of fun because you have legitimate physicists and biologists on stage sitting there and just shit talking a video game to no end. The Division is a usual topic because you can't transfer a disease that way.
Right.
So it's things like that. So if you're going to put a description of it, you would be like, come listen to real scientists dissect video game science and how they get it wrong.
Right. If you really want to sell these events, the thing with Starrcast is they only have 2 stages.
It doesn't matter.
There's at
dude.
most 2 fucking things going on at the same time, and sometimes they're scheduled really weirdly, as we'll talk about.
Still doesn't matter.
10:30 p.m. to midnight, Starrcast karaoke. This is again hosted by Tony Schiavone, and this
one in the past is usually the SCW guys as the backing band.
Yeah, which will be cool. And usually it's SC. Some of the SCU guys, Kazarian usually plays bass, and then Papa Buck sometimes shows up for these things as well, or has in the past. Let's move on to Friday. 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. is the Starrcast video game tournament hosted by Leva Bates. Again, they don't tell you what fucking game they're going to play.
Which will, take out most of the crowd, because if they're playing Madden, I don't care.
Right,
If they're playing Smash Bros, okay, cool, that'd be fun.
Sure. Yeah.
At the same time, you don't host a video game tournament at 8 in the fucking morning.
That's going to be tough, man. That's on a Friday. That's going to be real tough. Oh, man.
That's the confusing thing to me. Is like a lot of if you're coming to Starrcast, you've probably traveled.
Yeah. It's also not what this fucking event is about at all, but there's a lot of that on this show.
Yeah, but it's like, I'm not going to wake up at 7, get ready, get over to this hotel, if I'm not staying at this hotel, to go play fucking video games.
Then 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. is Malenko's thing that he's doing. This is going to be streamed on Fight, and it's going to be Dean talking about his history. There might be a Q&A, there might not be. Again, very little information offered. It literally just says fucking Malenko on the schedule. So, okay. From here on out, on this day especially, there's something good. Yeah, there's something going on the B stage and something going on the A stage, basically at all times.
Yeah, because this one is essentially where you're having, this is like an actual convention, the full convention day.
Yeah.
Because the other days aren't really. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that they're doing it this way.
This is the most confusing one for me, though, this first one. 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. You can choose between paving the way with Medusa on the B stage or the women of AEW on the main stage, which will be broadcast on Fight, hosted by Tony Schiavone, for those interested. I do not understand why the only 2 fucking female events on this schedule are at the same time,
as well as during lunch.
So if you're interested in women's wrestling, you have to make a fucking choice, and then the rest of the thing like doesn't serve you.
Yeah, that's asinine and dumb to me. That's typical Conrad though.
I just don't understand, because the next one is
I understand completely, because he's such a fucking. This is mean to say. He's such a fucking neckbeard that he's just going, when women should only take up an hour and a half, and I'm going to schedule that during lunch so that you have 3 choices now. Do you want to get food during lunch hours, and because things around only have, lunch specials during from 12 to 1 or so, or do you want to learn about women's wrestling and be interested in women's wrestling?
Well, it's so silly, because literally the next event, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on the B stage, is a fucking undescribed event called Talent on the Rise, right?
Yeah.
Like, why couldn't you move that and move Medusa down to the 2 to 3 p.m. slot, and then the people who are interested in women's wrestling can go from the women's wrestling event to the women's wrestling event if they care to. It's like you're paying...
You're making too much sense here for someone that wants women to be involved in this event.
Well, I'm not even like trying to be like, for the women or whatever. It's just like making sense. Like, you need to think about what the path of somebody who's interested in a particular thing is going to be through the event center, right? So
you're also thinking of this as someone who's logically been to a real convention before,
right?
And knows how to schedule shit,
right?
Yes, there's nothing wrong with making people choose between one thing or the other. You don't make them choose between one thing and the other in the same track,
right? Yeah. So 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Talent on the Rise, and then on the main stage is a live Art of Wrestling with Colt Cabana. This will be streamed on Fight. No indication of who the guests are going to be on that. It might be a bunch of guests. Usually when he does live shows, it's a number of guests. It's probably not going to be CM Punk. 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. On the B stage, Marty and Sarah Love Wrestling. Of course, a big wrestling podcast, Marty and Sarah Love Wrestling. From 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. on the A stage is Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous with MJF. That will be streamed on Fight. As we remember, he said, no fat people, and wear something nice. 6 p.m. to 7:30.
So no one's going to be there.
6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. GCW presents Secrets of Spring Break. If you care. And on the main stage is Wrestling with Stereotypes 2, which will be streamed on Fight. Again, no indication of what that actually will be. Probably similar to the other panel that they did. Wouldn't be surprised. Who was on the last one? Funches, I think, was on the last one.
Probably. I don't know. When we get through this day, I have a thoughts.
This is the fucking weird one. Okay, this
Again?
is the one that's like, what are you doing? 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. on the A stage is Moxley, interviewed by JR, streaming on Fight. Okay. The B stage is the Payoff Pod. Now, I researched what this is. It's a personal finance advice podcast.
Why is this here?
Yeah.
So-
Well, I know why it's here, because they fucking paid Conrad to
sure.
be there. but-
Absolutely, but okay, we're gonna get into it. We'll get there.
10 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. is Starrcast Improv, in case you've ever wanted to see non-improv actors do improv. And then on the A stage is Cock of the Talk with Joey Ryan, which will be streamed on Fight.
So here's a hint for you. If you're not going to go to the Joey Ryan thing, and you're somewhat even 1% curious about improv, you're
Run
in fucking Chicago.
Other direction. Yeah,
Go
to Second City.
Second City, which is one of the most famous improv comedy houses in the world.
Yeah. Where, like, all the SNL people come from. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my thought of looking through this schedule. I understand what's going on now.
Yeah.
He does not know how to break things out. What he's doing is he wants everyone to be at the main stage, and he's essentially shitting all over his secondary stage.
Yeah, a lot of this looks like that. Like he knows everyone's going to be at Moxley, so he's stuck. The Payoff Pod, who probably paid quite a bit to be there.
Yes. Also, especially with that, don't just sign anyone who's going to throw money at you. Know your fucking audience, you stupid dumbass. That's so out of place. That would be like if you're just like, hey, you want to host a white supremacist meeting?
It's not to that degree, but it's completely unrelated. It
has no bearing. If
it's like it would be
like if Anthony wanted to host his show at Starrcast.
It would be like having a live Joe Rogan experience at Evo. You know what I mean? Like,
sure, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if Anthony wasn't going to Dragon Con, went to Starrcast, and paid the money to host his live show,
his live play D&D podcast.
Yes, during this, that is exactly what this is.
It's fucking bizarre.
So,
it's crazy, and like, there's no precedent for it anywhere else on this. They've done kind of stuff like this in the past where it's been like, all right, guys, you're kind of way out on the reaches. Even if the Payoff Pod does like they bring wrestlers on and they talk to them about personal finance or whatever.
Fuck
like,
cares?
Yeah, like, no, like, just not the audience. And I understand that he's sitting there going like, it's JR talking to Moxley. Literally no one's going to be watching the B stage. But
if that's the case, then don't host anything there.
Yeah, man.
You don't have to have stuff running at all times. The flip side of this is we're just done essentially Saturday at 1:30.
Yeah.
And the convention is open on Sunday, but there's nothing scheduled.
I didn't think that they were. Are they open Sunday?
They're selling shit for Sunday. The collector's corner is open. So
maybe it's just going to be dregs on Sunday,
which
no
is normal,
events.
like what it is on the last day of a convention. But you have all of this time here. Yeah. Because why are you stopping it at 1:30? The show isn't until they have an all-out viewing party starting at 6. So for 4.5 hours, you're just gonna do nothing.
Do collector's corner, basically. Yeah.
That's when everyone's going to go to the collector's corner.
I don't know, man.
Except us, because we're going to be wandering around, sweating our balls off.
You know, we can always just go back to the hotel. But
yeah, it's Chicago in August. It doesn't matter what we do. We're going to be sweating our
probably,
ass off.
It's probably going to be nice. Really, coming from where you're coming from, you think Chicago's going to beat you up?
Did you see the sunburn I got last year?
Saturday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., the DDPY All Out Workshop. This is hosted by Diamond Dallas Page, of course.
It's also very expensive.
10 to 11 to 12 to 1. It's like fucking 3 or 4 hours of fucking yoga.
Yeah. Which, it's not
Straight.
just yoga. There's a lot of things.
Oh, he's probably doing like, talking.
And it's
It's a workshop.
It's a workshop.
If you're into DDPY, check it out. Although apparently it's a big cost ahead of time, so maybe he'll bring in a lot of Chicago people who like DDPY, which I imagine he will, because he has a fucking huge fan base that extends well beyond wrestling. So that at least makes sense. That's one thing that's like not entirely related to wrestling at all. That I'm like, okay, because he used to be a wrestler.
And that's his thing now. And even if he didn't want to do it here, he could do it somewhere else and make just as much money.
Yeah, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Tales of a Hardcore Legend with Mick Foley. This will be streamed on Fight, and will likely probably just be an adapted version of his one-man show that he does.
Essentially, yes, which I would be interested in seeing, but not really.
Yeah.
Yes, you can buy day passes for Sunday.
12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Best in the World CM Punk. We do not know if he's having a host on that at all. It will be streamed on Fight. If you're interested, if he even shows up and it's not just a cardboard cutout of him like it was with fucking Jericho last time. So, noticeably absent is Talk is Jericho from this schedule. 6 to 10 p.m. is the All Out viewing party, in case you, for some reason, got tickets to Starrcast without getting tickets to All Out. I don't know why you would do that, but okay. 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. is Janela Palooza, of course, hosted by Joey Janela, featuring musical guest Tone Loc, which is perhaps the most interesting of all of these events, but is a separate ticketed event that they're not talking about it being that for whatever reason on the schedule, which is kind of the biggest thing about this schedule for me. Is all of these events, as we've talked about before, you pay a price to get in the door, and then you kind of have to pay a price for each of these events. And the schedule makes it seem like this is just stuff that's happening if you're in the room, but it's not. You have to pay to get into all these events separately. So, fuck.
Yeah. So yeah, and something else I'm noticing as I'm looking at the Starrcast website, is all of the quote meet and greets where you get a picture and an autograph, are all happening on Friday and Saturday. Like almost all of them are happening on Friday, almost at the same times. So you're now, I don't even understand anymore, dude. I don't get it. Like, why are you're causing yourself to lose money?
It's a mess. The more that comes out about it, the more I'm like, man, I'm really glad I'm not interested in this event anyway, at face value. So, just because it celebrates an era of wrestling that I have very little connection to, for the most part. Yeah,
I agree. And like you and I have talked about, there's one reason that I want to go, and I cannot even get an answer on that.
Yeah, so... AEW sells out Boston and Philadelphia TNT events. This comes to us from Josh Nason for Figure4WrestlingOnline.com, F4WOnline.com. Continuing their string of recent sellouts, All Elite Wrestling sold out both their Boston, Mass. And Philadelphia, Pennsylvania TNT events in roughly an hour on Friday. The approximately 4,500 seats available at Boston University's Agganis Arena sold out in 57 minutes and would have done so faster had the online sales process not slowed down, according to Dave Meltzer. The Wednesday, October 9th Boston show will be the promotion's second live TV show on TNT and will feature Jon Moxley versus Shawn Spears and the Young Bucks versus Private Party.
So I have heard that both of these shows were, even though they were through Ticketmaster, you had to jump in the online queue to get tickets.
Yeah.
So that is, to me, is a comforting thing for whenever they come through Atlanta. That means I actually do have a legitimate shot to get the tickets.
Sure, it's going to take some finagling, but it's a lot easier.
I don't mind being, not getting tickets because they sold out before my place and the line came up. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
It's more acceptable to me to have that happen than I've been trying to buy the same tickets for the past 20 minutes and your system is so shit that you are allowing 20 or honestly 1,000 people to buy those same tickets right now.
Yeah. The Wednesday, October 16th Philadelphia show held at Temple University's Liacouras Center sold out approximately 7,700 seats in just over an hour. 6,500 of those tickets were sold in just 45 minutes, and the third TNT show will feature both world title defenses for the men and the women.
I will say, just this is my assumption, that if you're in either of these cities and you didn't get tickets, it's a good chance that they may be releasing some production holds. So,
yeah, they'll have production holds that get released. Also, I mean, check the secondary sellers.
Yeah, don't just give up hope because StubHub has them at ridiculous prices.
Yeah. The success follows a quick sellout for AEW's debut on TNT on Wednesday, October 2nd in Washington, D.C. at the Capital One Arena. AEW has yet to announce any dates past Philadelphia, but they are expected soon. Editor's note, today. Or if you're hearing this on a delay, they've already been announced, hopefully. So here's the big polls for these outside of the sellouts, which again, monumental, but again, expected. These are really actually kind of small venues for AEW at this point, even compared to what they've done. And yeah, they're on Wednesdays, but they're also they're on fucking TV. And, they're the first few episodes of the series or whatever. Like Jonathan and I have said, I would be very surprised if this whole first tour isn't not just sellouts, but fucking day one sellouts.
I'm gonna say at least until after Thanksgiving.
I would say through the end of the year.
Yeah,
I think they're selling out through the end of the year.
I agree. I'm just gonna say a little lower.
Yeah.
Until at least around Thanksgiving time, you're gonna have a lot of these this first day sellouts.
So the big announcements, though, that came out just before these and just after these events sold out: Moxley versus Spears announced for Boston. That'll be a good match, I think.
It'll be an interesting match for sure.
Sure, but again, it's like sort of like the Cody versus Sammy Guevara match, where it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Those guys have no heat. But it'll be an interesting match to see. I guess I would like to see those guys fight each other, I guess.
Yeah, what's interesting about this match to me is I'm pretty sure this is a match we saw on a random Raw event.
Oh, probably. Yeah,
well,
at some point.
No, that's the interesting thing to me is I want to see how different it is.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, maybe it'd be interesting to look back and try and compare.
Even if we don't talk about it on the show, just for me personally, I want to watch both of them and see how drastically different it is because of how the styles change due to management.
Yeah. Philly will feature the first television defense of both the AEW World Championship and the AEW Women's World Championship. So that's kind of a stacked card.
Yeah, which is kind of funny that they keep posting the semi-blurred out picture of the belt.
Right.
Where we know what color the belt is. We know it's kind of purple and silver.
See, I always took that to be a fucking comp photo.
You do?
Like, just fucking complete fake.
Because the silver parts are blurred out, and it's like, okay. Okay.
We'll see. I think it's a complete forgery, and the belt's going to look way different than what they have up there. But
I hope you're wrong.
Oh, that's a weird artifact in the notes. Okay. Jon Moxley talks his deal with AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. This is kind of a short thing. I have to say before we start this article, all the quotes from Jon Moxley were said in English, then written for this article in Japanese, then translated back to English. And so when I got my hands on them, you
want to know why that is?
Completely unintelligible. Here's the article. Jon Moxley fans have been see, even the fucking stuff that the guy wrote makes no sense. Have been wondering how will his work with New Japan Pro Wrestling affect his deal with AEW once the TNT show begins in October. How will be done with New Japan
Dude,
Pro
don't try
Wrestling.
to fucking just read this. Read what it means, not what it says.
We now have a clearer picture. Moxley recently spoke to Nikan Sport, where he was asked about working for New Japan Pro Wrestling past the G1 Climax 29 tournament. He said his AEW contract is allowing him to continue to work for New Japan. Quote, fortunately, there was no problem fighting in New Japan while belonging to an American organization like AEW. In the future, I can always show up in Japan and wrestle, end quote. Moxley is the current IWGP United States champion. His first match after leaving WWE was with New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he won the championship. Mox fans will have to wait and see if AEW's weekly schedule will get in the way of his New Japan Pro Wrestling commitments. We assume that his AEW deal takes precedence over his agreement with New Japan Pro Wrestling. We will have a better idea once October comes. He also wants to compete in New Japan Pro Wrestling's biggest show of the year, Wrestle Kingdom, at the Tokyo Dome. The event will take place January 4th and 5th, January 2020. I guess because of the time difference. Yeah. Naturally, I want to do it at the Tokyo Dome. If you win the G1, you can fight in the main event at the Tokyo Dome. I want to do it with Minoru Suzuki. Also, I would like to go against any wrestler who tries a new and unique style. There are many such wrestlers in Japan. This is interesting. This had kind of been speculated, but it's nice to have him definitively come out and say, like, yeah, one doesn't affect the other. That's how my deal works. Not to say that'll be the deal for everyone, although I hope it would be for certain wrestlers who really haven't had a chance in New Japan yet, namely Pentagon and Phoenix, when they do sign deals. But it is interesting that AEW is kind of like, yeah, whatever. Go. It's fucking New Japan. It's way over there. Go do it.
Pentagon and Phoenix can't go to New Japan.
Because of the AAA thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to take note. Rumors have been swirling around this week that WWE has been in talks with CMLL.
Yes, I did read that. I read that.
And
as
if
well,
that's true, then the battle lines are being completely redrawn at this point.
Essentially, yes. But as it is, going on the knowledge we know right now, Pentagon and Phoenix cannot go to New Japan because of New Japan's deal with CMLL and not AAA.
Yeah, but Pentagon and Phoenix have worked for CMLL.
Not in a while, they haven't, though.
Sure, not in a while, but they worked for it while they were working for AAA. I really don't think it would make that much of a difference. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the holdup here is AEW literally trying to rip those two guys out of Dorian's hands.
Yeah, I guarantee that. I feel like so hard that's what they're trying to do because Dorian is 100% mismanaging them in every aspect.
So we'll see, but I'd love to see them get a shot in New Japan just because they haven't had it yet. But yeah, I understand the Dorian thing. That's always going to be, I guess for those uninitiated, we talk about Dorian because we talked about him forever. Dorian Roldan is one of the managing entities at AAA, and he's a fuck ass. and he's always been a fuck ass, and he's always going to be a fuck ass. So he has been a consistent problem for Pentagon and Phoenix. Pentagon and Phoenix have had kind of battles with him over copyright. Pentagon left AAA. They own
Pentagon
the rights
and Phoenix
to his
both
name.
Left AAA for not necessarily the greatest choice, but at the time it was for Conan's promotion, The Crash.
Yeah.
In the midst of that, Dorian trademarked both of their names.
And like all their catchphrases, like any name that they could think that would.
Yeah, every time that they would come out on Twitter with a new name that was just similar, Dorian trademarked it immediately before they could do it.
He's a fucking worm. He sucks. And he unfortunately is probably the biggest reason why they're not already signed to a long-term AEW contract.
Well, that we know of.
Sure. Right. If sitting from where we're sitting, if we had to place blame, and he's an obstacle. We should talk briefly about the NXT thing. I don't really want to, but we should talk about it. Rumors going around this week that pretty strong rumors from several sources. So I think it's probably going to happen, even though I think it's really stupid.
It's stupid, but this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. NXT
will be going to USA from 8 to 10 p.m. on Wednesday nights. To counter program AEW. No, I think that's really dumb. Now NXT getting a shot on TV, that's okay. I don't. They're gonna try to run a tape show up against a live show, which I think is a mistake.
I don't think it's gonna be taped.
So you think they're gonna change it to a live show now? Wow. Okay, a live show that you can get on the WWE Network and Hulu.
That's the thing, is that's where everybody is confused, and some of the materials that are coming out are very confusing because it's going to be a separate show from the one you have on the WWE Network. So essentially, NXT is going to be 3 hours every week.
Because that's what people's problem was, not enough content.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing is, like, when you sit here and you look at it as a whole, WWE has trouble with 5 hours of content per week.
Yeah.
Now we're going to 7.
More than that, dude. It's so much more than that. Because you're not factoring in...
7 consistently per week.
Right, but you're not factoring in 205 Live.
That's probably getting canceled.
You're not factoring
Actually, from the thing I read, they're folding 205 into NXT.
Main event, NXT UK, pay-per-views. They do so much fucking shit.
And the other thing is, if anyone thinks that if NXT goes live on Wednesday nights, that Vince will not be strong-arming every bit of it, you are sadly mistaken.
It's just
he will be so involved.
It's so like
it's just a terrible idea on all aspects.
It's great for NXT to finally have that platform. It's just everything that goes along with it. You're like, oh, they're gonna kill it.
Yeah, they're gonna kill it. And even after like this most recent takeover, really wasn't that great comparatively. Man, this is not good for NXT.
The steam's been coming out of that balloon for a long time, I think. Like, people are still like, oh, Gargano and Ciampa have big matches, or Gargano or something, or whatever, and those guys are great wrestlers, but I think the bloom on the rose of NXT has been a lot more difficult to take as we've seen star after star after star go to the main roster
and then just shit on.
Become fucking nothing because Vince doesn't know how to use them, right? So It's like watching inmates on death row, right? Who cares? They're just going to go up and get fucking killed. That's why as much as I used to love NXT, I turn on NXT now, and 5 minutes in, I'm like, what's the fucking point?
You just get sad.
Yeah. I know they're just going to kill all these guys, so.
Yeah. When you look at who's on the main roster from NXT, the only one who's, like, actually gone somewhere is Kevin Owens.
And Ricochet's done better than I thought he would, but still.
I think that's temporary.
Interesting note, some Road 2 episodes are now viewable on BR Live. Alongside the pay-per-views, you can watch Road 2 All Out episodes.
Probably going to be a thing going forward. That just makes sense.
I would love to see TV go there too, but I don't know that it will. But if they really wanted to push BR Live, I think they would. But
they may do. This is speculation. I don't know what the fuck anything TW does anymore. Hulu's thing is airs live on TV, next day on Hulu.
Right.
It may be next day on BR Live.
Or they may do a subscription through BR Live.
Yes, that could be happening as well. Either way, it's a good idea.
Which is good, because I've been juggling. Do I get YouTube TV? Do I get Hulu with live TV?
I've been thinking about that because I was about to cancel my live TV, and then I was like, oh, well, I can't do that now. Fuck.
If they put out, $10 a month and you get to watch AEW TV live on BR Live, then okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need all that extra shit, but...
I was seriously about to cancel my my TV, and now I was like, oh, I can't because I won't be able to watch the recording in time for us to do the show.
I think well, no, not if you have to work.
Yeah,
you would. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes because there's a lot of options. I went through everything: PlayStation View, YouTube TV, Sling. Sling's the cheapest option, but for me, YouTube TV seems like the best value in terms of things you can do with it.
I'll probably do Hulu because I already have Hulu anyways.
Yeah.
And that's still going to be cheaper than what I'm paying for just
for cable,
DirecTV Now.
Yeah.
Which is getting renamed next week.
To what?
AT&T Now. I'm not kidding.
Wow, it's confused everybody. Okay. The Road to All Out episode 5. Interesting to note that they did 2 Road to All Outs this week. One was 11 minutes long. One was 3 minutes long. I really don't think it needed to be 2 episodes.
I don't think so either, but I think the way they did it and separated it out, it made perfect sense to me because
I think they did it for tone reasons because they thought it was weird to have it go to the Brandy promo at the end. That being said, splitting it at 11 minutes to then do a 3-minute episode the next day is kind of like, just put it in one episode for me, for the love of God. So
I didn't mind
sit
as
down
much.
and watch it.
Grouchy old man.
This episode opens with Greg and Dustin. They are head to toe in Scott Hall cosplay. Slow-mo.
Looks so good, man.
Slow-mo walking towards each other on a beautiful hot summer's day in the park. Epic music plays as the best friends embrace. It's a beautiful moment. And the drone zooms out on the best friends who are hugging alone in the middle of the park. And we hit the title card. Out of the title card, best friends sit in what appears to be a community theater with the lights lit up for an interview. They are asked how they met. Trent asks if they need to have some kind of fucking origin story or something. He says, "Can't we just be best friends?"
No, fuck you. We need an origin.
Trent says he doesn't even remember meeting Chuck for the first time. Chuck says, "Why do these TV superstars like each other?" Trent says, "Yeah, man." He says, "How did you even meet your friend?" Talking to the camera guy. He says, "You don't even remember, bro. Get off our backs."
You can also tell he wanted to say, "Dude, get off my dick," and he was like, "Oh, I can't."
Yeah, well, just like I love that angle because like. Yeah, I couldn't tell you how I met, like, any of my close friends. Like, how did you guys meet? One day.
I know how I met most of my close friends, but...
To give specifics, though?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I came to Throwdown once. It was like 7 years ago.
That's fair. The interviewer asks what being a best friend means to Chuck, as the video cuts to an amazing clip of Chuck and Trent eating ice cream together. Chuck's scoop falls off the top of his cone, and then Trent
Just
scoops
straight out of a fucking sitcom, man.
Yeah, scoops one of the ice cream scoops off of his cone and puts it on top of his best friend's cone. It's just a friendship is awesome, you know? What a great moment. Chuck says that when he sees Trent getting beat up, it pisses him off, and it makes him want to fight Trent's battles for him because he's always getting beat up all the time. Trent says, why you gotta say I'm the one getting beat up? Chuck says, have you seen our matches? And Trent says, no, actually, I don't really watch our stuff.
Oh, and I don't remember it either.
Yeah, Chuck says, we're good, man. We're good. Which I loved. Chuck says that part of the reason they chose to sign with AEW is due to the impetus on the tag division. That's not really a proper use of the word impetus, but the sort of interest in developing the tag division is what he's talking about. We see some hilarious footage of Chuck and Trent flying a kite together as the best friends talk about wanting to be the first tag team champions in AEW because it's an accolade that nobody can ever take away from them. They go on to say that their jovial character and sort of playful aesthetic has nothing to do with how they do it in the ring, with their abilities in the ring. Chuck then refers to the Dark Order as spooky perverts. To which I say, the gimmick is dead. Shut it down. Trent says there's nothing wrong with having masked uni boys, but don't bring them to work. It's unprofessional.
I was watching this at work the following morning.
Yeah.
I had tears in my eyes. I was laughing so hard. And like a couple of the people I worked with, this was early at work. I got in before everybody else. But, you know, a couple people would come in and was like, are you okay? What are you laughing at? I was like, just don't worry about it. I can't explain it.
It's just wrestling stuff, guys.
That's usually what it boils down to. Is like, it's wrestling stuff. And they're usually, oh, okay, cool. It's like, I want
there's
more
nothing
of
wrong
Chuck
with
and Trent just
having
talking
there's
to
nothing
people.
wrong with having masked uni boys, but don't bring them to work. It's unprofessional. Jesus Christ. Chuck and Trent maintain that they don't need to win the first round bye, but, quote, it would be cool, end quote. Chuck says, I don't want to lose and then lose in the first round. That would be lame. I don't know if we're going to be the best tag team in the world. I don't even know if that's a thing, but we damn sure want to be tag team champions. But cool, you know, it's just more personality from these guys. I would watch a fucking sitcom about these dudes,
Right?
so...
I don't even need. Doesn't even need to be a sitcom, but just following them around with a camera, kind of like their old show, but just all the time. You know, once a week we get 45 minutes of them. Just, you know, no filter, because this was a little bit filtered, but
Right.
no filter. Just them was like, what are we doing this week? Oh, those masked uni guys are following us around again.
It's like a wrestling version of the Tenacious D show.
Yeah.
We rock. Alex Marvez is here to prove that he's bad at every job. As he starts, whatever they're calling it, the impact zone or whatever. Marvez walks his way through a Spears versus Cody by the numbers script that could have been okay, but still kind of stupid and pointless in the hands of a decent broadcaster. The coolest number is 184, the number of times Tully Blanchard fought Dusty Rhodes, which is cool if true. So, Alex Marvez.
I'm not even going to say anything because I went off on a fucking rant on Discord.
And I don't want to go off on the rant because I too have done jobs that I'm not good at, you know? And like, it's not your fault. Like, I don't think he's not trying. I just don't think he's talented, or well learned in the things that they're asking him to do. And I'm really mean in the notes. I'm going to be slightly nicer in my wording. This
So
man
I'm just
gets
gonna let you talk because I'm at the point I can't be nice anymore.
This fucking dude gets paid by this company to call MJF Maxwell Jacob Freeman.
Freeman, not
Freeman.
Friedman, his name.
Freeman.
Yes.
As in the wrong name. On a taped segment. On a taped segment, this happened. Which means the director must have been like, yo, that's wrong, but I don't think you can do it any better than that. So fuck it. Because how are you paid to do this one thing? Maxwell Jacob Friedman is like one of the most notable rising stars in the company. Yeah. And you get his fucking name wrong in the copy?
Yeah.
What?
And he didn't even say it fast enough where you would think, oh, okay, he just said it really fast.
No, he said it slowly. He was like Maxwell Jacob Freeman.
Because he doesn't know how to have tone or not be monotone. He says everything in the same... And I hate to say it, I said tone twice already. He says everything in the same tone. There's no variations there. It's like listening to Ben Stein.
He's not interesting or engaging like Van Vliet is, you know? He's got
Ferris Bueller. You know who I'm talking about.
He's got none of the personality, and he can't even read. He can't even read. It bothers me that he's been given chance after chance after chance now. As people have just like come in around him and showed how much better the product could be if he wasn't doing it. Like Golden Boy comes in and shows that he fucking doesn't know what he's doing, right? And then Van Vliet comes in to do literally the exact same job he's doing here and does it 100 times better, and then isn't here for a couple of weeks, and we're stuck with fucking Marvez, who doesn't know what the performers' names are, on a taped show where they could have just re-fucking done the take. I do not understand how this happens.
Yeah, I don't get it, dude. It's so... I don't know, man.
We cut to Hangman's speech that we talked briefly about last week. Hangman Page cuts a good promo saying that AEW didn't happen because of Chris Jericho. It happened because of the Elite decided to do some real cowboy shit. I hope this is something that they stick to. I know it's kind of dirty, but I think if you bleep it, it comes across as just as good on air. And I like the idea of, oh, he's Hangman. Okay, he's the Hangman Adam Page. What does he do? He does cowboy shit, you know? And I hope that it's something that sticks around. I think it's got kind of a ring to it. Quote, the people who change the world, the people who win, are the people who do cowboy shit, end quote. Hangman vows to, quote, ride his horse out of the Sears Center as the first All Elite Wrestling World Champion, end quote. Next is a promo from Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega tells us that he really wanted to make a statement at AEW's first show, Double or Nothing. He felt he had a whole new package that was unstoppable, but he wasn't good enough. Quote, all I had to do was get past Chris Jericho, end quote. Omega says that he has the image of the belt burned into his mind. He was supposed to be the chosen one. He feels that his expectation caused him to underestimate Chris Jericho. Omega says that his best work always comes when he has to punch up from below, when he has to sacrifice something. He feels the real person who deserves his thanks is Jon Moxley. Moxley has inspired Omega to evolve, and while Omega knows that Moxley wants to make a statement more than anyone, Omega has no intention of sharing the spotlight with anyone. Omega closes by saying that he thinks that AEW fans will be the real winners, as they will get to witness Moxley becoming Omega's first step to redemption. A decent promo, a little paint by numbers, but
but it was fine.
And kind of what we expected. It is nice to see that coming in. It does make me think that Kenny Omega's gonna ultimately be the winner here.
Probably.
Although it's tough to say.
I can't. It's honestly, it's gonna go either way, and I'm not mad at either way.
Yeah. I think Moxley could stand the loss more than Kenny Omega has, as it was talked about in Discord this week by somebody, I can't remember who. Like, for a lot of people, Kenny Omega has this legend behind him. So to debut him on TV with a win-loss ratio of like 0-2, right?
Yeah.
Not what I would do.
Wouldn't be the
especially
best idea.
Because I don't think you lose any bloom from Moxley's rose by having him lose to Kenny Omega, right? So, I probably wouldn't have Moxley go over here, but I don't know. Again, we're still fairly far out, so we'll see where that goes.
You could also kind of have like Moxley lose because he went ape shit.
Sure.
And then,
although it remains to be seen if this will be a Chicago street fight as remembered.
Dude, I'm hoping so, man.
That would be cool. And it was, when we first heard about this match long before they announced it, that was the rumor, was that it was going to be a Chicago street fight. So whether or not that's changed, I don't know. I think it would be a really cool thing for them to do. I mean, that's a Chicago thing, right? So, The Road to All Out episode 6. This entire episode is a promo from Brandy Rhodes. The lighting choice here is really interesting. It almost seems like they intentionally chose lighting that would make her look older, which makes sense given that the promo is delivered as though the viewer is Shawn Spears, in a very sort of angry mother tone to the camera. And I'm gonna read it here. Quote, 13 years, 13. That is about how long people have been discussing why my husband stays in the mix, why he's at the top of his field. And Shawn Spears, you played all my favorite songs. Quote, it was his daddy. He's just a leech. Oh, it was Legacy. It was definitely the Bullet Club. While you were grasping for excuses like air, I could have saved you the trouble and drowned you in the answers, you stupid son of a bitch. I will say throughout this promo, this is my own aside here, it feels like something that was worked on with Cody. Because it's very much in his sort of style of promo. If you ever hear him do a promo on basically anything, it's the words are written in this way.
Yeah, you can tell they sat down together and talked this out. Yeah. But it's still a really good promo for what.
No, it's really good. It doesn't take anything away from her either.
But it does. It's still that, like, okay, you feel it,
right? Because this thing is a speech more than it is a promo, right? But you can feel Cody's voice in the way that this is structured, in the things that are said. To continue, there is a difference between being a wrestler and being a pro wrestler. Someone who eats, sleeps, breathes, and devotes everything that they have to that ring. And my husband is a goddamn exemplary pro wrestler. But you, I think you're pretend. He's obviously not here right now, and you know why. He was your friend, and you took an unforgiving steel chair and ended all of that to start anew for yourself. He didn't even get a hand up. Now, I don't mean to sound insensitive or cold, but I also don't mean to sound like I give a damn about you. So I'm going to tell you what I think. The blood that I saw pooling out of the back of his head may as well have been a mirror into your future. I have seen that man take a backdrop on his neck. I have seen him take a ring bell to the skull. I've sat at home on my couch and watched while he climbed a 20-foot steel cage and moonsaulted off, only to eat shit. But you know what? He got back up. He always gets back up. Can you say the same?
No.
So now you've drugged Tully Blanchard into this mess, and I'm not even going to pretend to know what inhabits that man's mind this many years removed from feuding with Dusty, but I do know this. This ain't the first time the Wolves have circled. In fact, once I took this name, I found out pretty quickly that they're always on the doorstep. Rhodes might as well be Latin for bullseye, but that's fine. We welcome that. It's what makes us who we are. 10 staples to the back of my beloved's head. That was your 15 minutes. I really hope you enjoyed them. Which, damn, Brandy. Okay. And that's the end of the episode. Jonathan, with you being from Atlanta, with Dusty Rhodes being such an icon of Atlanta, your feelings on the Rhodes kind of being pushed as like that family lineage being a really fucking huge deal for this company, is that something that affects you personally?
A little bit, not to a great extent. It's very interesting to me, and I agree with it because their lineage is very important to wrestling.
Yeah,
it's just as important as the McMahon lineage is to wrestling, and some would say it's a little bit more important because the McMahon family has done a lot, but they've done it in not the greatest ways. Whereas Dusty was very upfront about everything always. So I like how they're building this. I like that they're, they brought Tully in and they're building this, that it's seemingly a generational kind of a thing, even though Shawn Spears isn't really, a lineage as well, but he fits in with these guys. It's his passion. It's not like, you could say this would be a better storyline for like Randy Orton.
right.
But Randy Orton doesn't have the passion there to make this a good storyline. Shawn Spears does. So it does affect me in a way, not to the extent that it's Rhodes or nothing. I'm happier just to see a good match, and I think this is going to be a really good match. And to me, if you're using this as a build-up, then you need to pay it off very well. And I don't have the hesitance that they're going to pay it off badly or that they won't pay it off well, because I've seen what they've done in the past and I know they can do it.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll ever successfully get me to fucking give a shit about Shawn Spears. Never cared about him before. Don't care about him now.
They've made you though that you're interested to see what he can do now.
Right, I'm not changing the channel or anything. There's not a whole lot for me as a viewer to grab onto.
Right, and that makes sense. I mean, the gimmick that they're running with him is still a little. It needs a little bit of work, but it's miles better than the perfect 10 bullshit.
Like here's the thing. Have you ever seen like the Mr. Plinkett reviews of the Star Wars movies?
No.
They're done by this YouTube channel called Red Letter Media, and one thing they did in one of the reviews, and I don't know if it was Mr. Plinkett or Half in the Bag, one of their shows that they did, they said, take a character from the Star Wars prequels and describe them without talking about what they look like. And there are wrestlers that you can do that with, and there are wrestlers that you cannot do that with.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think that's a pretty fair litmus test for a character. Like, if you can't describe who they are without talking about what they look like, then they're not a character. They're just an aesthetic. And Shawn Spears is one of those guys that's always struck me as one of those characters where it's like, yeah, but what else? And I think Brandy kind of touches on that here in this promo, which is kind of funny. To see the Rhodes pushed in this way, of course, with Cody being an EVP, it makes sense. But the biggest thing about it for me is that they're cognizant of the fact that like history really matters in pro wrestling, and that the one thing that WWE has that they don't have is history. And their way to combat that has been to say that pro wrestling history is their history. Right. And so all of the history is their history. And now they have history. Right. Even though they don't, because they have 4 shows or whatever on the books. It's just sort of interesting to go back and say, like, we don't have AEW doesn't have history, but wrestling has history, and we're a wrestling show. So we can kind of bring in Tully Blanchard, and that's our sort of tie back, in Cody's bloodline, and that's our tie back. And then, Teal Piper, right? I think it's a good course of action for people who are looking for that sort of direct tie to this narrative that they've been a part of their whole lives. And I think it's really nice to have that there where it kind of in the same way that Lucha Underground used Chavo Guerrero or Rey Mysterio, right? Where they can say, "Oh, all of this history is our history."
Right.
And I think that's great.
It makes a lot of sense, and I think it's why not? That's the thing. Why not use it? Use it, but use it well, and that's definitely something that they are doing.
Other than that, man, just a great promo. Obviously something that was sort of written out and talked about, just because the turn of phrases are too quick to be sort of off the cuff. And the structure is too smart to be off the cuff, and that's why it just kind of screams Cody. But other than that, man, a huge week for AEW. More sellouts. Expect more sellouts to come. They're probably going to announce this stuff today. We're probably going to get on sales next Friday, and it's probably going to be 2 more sellouts for them, and just 2 more. Other than that, I mean, all out weekend for us is coming up. Get in our Discord, tinyurl.com/seeing the elite.
Yeah, I
Go
hope
ahead.
they don't announce. They won't announce on sales for 2 weeks. I hope not, because otherwise I'm gonna just be. Okay, guys, you go do what you're gonna do. I'm gonna be sitting over here in the corner for about 45 minutes.
Yeah, Jesus. tinyurl.com/seeing the elite, our Discord server. Get in there. We're gonna have our pro wrestling scorecard league coming soon. You can compete against AEW fans from all over the world to be the champ. Our current champ, Shane O'Mac, is offering a free t-shirt of your choice if you can manage to take this championship away from him. Good luck. Other than that, I mean, our AEW all-out plans are interesting. We're going to be there all weekend. We're going to be there Thursday through Sunday. We're going to do an awesome travelogue podcast. The first night, we're going to Galloping Ghost Arcade, which is what I've been told, various stories, biggest arcade in the world, biggest arcade in the country, whatever. 700-plus cabinets. We're going to have fun there. Night after that, we're going to a Goldfinger show. We're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about All Out, as well as deep dish pizza and hot dogs with a bunch of shit on them. And just
I'm not doing that.
If you didn't go to All Out Weekend, you can kind of come into our world, and it'll be like you were there with us all 3 of those nights, and it's gonna be a fun show of just kicking it in the hotel room at All Out, and that's gonna be. I'm looking forward to the weekend a lot, and to putting that show together. And just having a lot of fun in Chicago. YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and podcast services everywhere. Subscribe, review, give us 5 stars, just like Meltzer. It makes us feel so sweet. Jonathan, how sweet?
Too sweet, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Facebook.com/Seeing the Elite. Twitter @Seeing the Elite. And of course, tinyurl.com/Seeing the Elite. Come into the Discord server, meet all the homies, and let's talk about some AEW wrestling between now and next Monday, when we will be back to you. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, Jonathan, you got anything more for these people before we go?
No.
Oh, me neither. So we're going to get out of here. Thanks again. As always, go out and change the world.